So I recently finished the novel Breakpoint by James Patterson, and it's a really quick read that I teased in a video that I did earlier talking about it, as I was probably about halfway through when I did the last video talking about this Book Shots read. And if you know his Book Shots series, they're really short novels that are designed to be at a very fast pace, so you can just really run through them. In some cases, for fast readers, you're going to run through it in a day. Some faster readers than that will probably run through it in a few hours. So it just all depends on your speed of reading. I am not a particularly fast reader, and part of that is because I'm doing a lot of things at one time. I'm usually reading more than one book at a time. And so that was the case when I read this story by James Patterson. I was reading a couple other books at the same time. But I did give it a rating on Goodreads of 3 stars. I probably would have gone up to 3.5 stars if that was a possibility. And I just didn't quite want to go to 4 stars, as the story was... because it's really short, it didn't have a lot of depth in terms of character development, but it was an interesting story about a tennis star who's playing at Wimbledon, and she is being threatened by an unknown person who you later find out who that person is at the end, and it's kind of a dramatic climax to the story. And I read it, and as I started to read it, there was a point where it was pretty obvious what was going to happen at the end. But for the most part, it kept me into it throughout the story. There's an incident that happens early in the story that kind of gives you something to really sink your teeth into at about the halfway point of the story. And so it really kept me going from that point on. I was very interested in what was going on in terms of the kind of the bodyguard thing that was going on in the story, that I thought was really interesting dynamic there, and you were kind of waiting to see how that was going to play out from a romantic angle. And so that was an interesting kind of a subplot that was going on there that kept me interested in it. So there could be some mild spoilers in this. I probably should have said that earlier, but nothing really major that I'm going to reveal about Breakpoint. But here's the thing. It was really a fast-paced story, and it had a couple elements that I really like. I like the sports angle. That's something that is really interesting to me. But it's not necessarily a requirement for a story, but it's something that definitely did catch my attention when I was looking across Amazon for potential books to read, and I was scouring some of the James Patterson offerings that I thought might catch my attention, and that one certainly did. The cover grabbed my attention, of course, because it has a sports angle on the cover, with it being a tennis player. And then I read the story, and it sounded really interesting with a little bit of the mystery angle there, and a potential love interest going on within the story as well. But again, because it was a really short story, it was difficult to really get into the character development part, which I was really looking for a little bit more. I was kind of interested in the characters as the story went on, but I didn't really get a lot of substance in terms of developing the characters that I was kind of hoping for. So it was one of those novels you get toward the end, a short novel, a novella, you get toward the end and you're kind of like, well, maybe this would have been more fun and maybe a little bit more interesting if it had been a full-length novel with more in-depth character development. But that's not what it was, but it was a quick read. It was a fun and entertaining read, and I would recommend it. It's good for what it is. And if you want something that's a quick read, you want a good mystery, something that has a little bit of a sports angle and also a potential love angle that's going on there too, this is something that you might want to consider. So check it out, James Patterson's Breakpoint. Very interesting short book shot story that I think you'll find very entertaining. I found it entertaining, very quick read, well worth the time that I invested in it.